Every couple fighting thinks the same thing. We just need to communicate better. That's what every relationship book tells you. That's what every therapist suggests in the first session. That's what your friends say when you vent to them at dinner. Just talk more, listen better, use I statements, be vulnerable, be patient. Learn each other's love language and everything will fall into place. And so you have the conversation. You explain how you feel with more precision than you have ever explained anything in your life. You listen, you nod, you validate, you circle back, you follow every rule, and somehow 2 hours later you're right back where you started, exhausted, misunderstood, and more disconnected than before the conversation even began. Here's what nobody is telling you. Sometimes the conversation doesn't fix anything because the conversation was never the problem. Sometimes two people are not struggling because they don't know how to talk to each other. They are struggling because at the deepest level, they want fundamentally different things. They have different values, different visions for their lives, different definitions of love, commitment, and what a good relationship is even supposed to feel like. And you cannot communicate your way out of incompatibility. You cannot find the right words to make someone want what you want. You cannot phrase it differently enough to close a gap that was never about phrasing. If you are in a relationship where you feel like you are constantly translating yourself and the translation never lands, this video is going to change the way you see everything. The communication myth is one of the most expensive myths in modern relationships. It is expensive not because it is wrong to communicate well, communication absolutely matters, but because it has become the default diagnosis for every relationship problem. Couples go to therapy and spend months learning to communicate, never once asking the question underneath the question. Are we communicating about things we actually agree should exist in our lives together? We have confused the tool with the problem. Communication is a tool. It helps you navigate a relationship. But if the destination you want and the destination your partner wants are in opposite directions, the tool cannot save you. A GPS that works perfectly cannot help you if you and your passenger are trying to get to completely different cities. The myth says, if you just learn to express yourself better, if he just learns to listen harder, everything will work out. And so people spend years, sometimes decades, in relationships that were never going to work, working on how they speak to each other instead of asking whether they fundamentally align. And when it finally ends, they blame themselves for not communicating well enough. They don't realize the relationship did not fail because of how they talked. It failed because of what they wanted. By the time this video is over, you're going to be able to tell the difference between a communication gap and an incompatibility gap. You are going to understand exactly what incompatibility looks like, why it hides so well inside relationships, and what to do when you finally see it clearly. And most importantly, you are going to stop blaming yourself for not being able to fix something that was never broken. It was just mismatched from the start. I want to introduce you to what I call the alignment gap model. This is the framework that separates relationships that need better tools from relationships that need honest evaluation. The alignment gap is the distance between what two people fundamentally need from life, from love, and from a partner, and it exists beneath everything you say to each other. Here is how it works. Every relationship operates on two levels. The surface level is communication, how you express yourself, how you listen, how you resolve conflict, how you repair after arguments. This is the level most relationship advice lives on, and it is genuinely important. But beneath the surface is the foundation level, your values, your vision, your non-negotiables, your definition of what a good life looks like. And this is the level that determines whether two people can actually build something together. When two people have an alignment gap, a significant mismatch at the foundation level, no amount of surface level work closes it. You can become the most emotionally articulate version of yourself. You can learn to express every feeling with perfect clarity, and he can learn to hear you with perfect attentiveness. And after all of that, you will still want a family and he will still not. You will still want stability and he will still want freedom. You will still need emotional intimacy and he will still find it suffocating, because those things do not live in the words, they live in the foundation. And communication cannot rebuild a foundation. It can only work with what the foundation already holds. The alignment gap model has 4 dimensions. Each one reveals a different layer of where two people can be misaligned. And in a moment, I am going to walk you through every single one, because understanding which dimension your relationship is struggling in will tell you more about your situation than 6 months of couples counseling. Let me paint you a picture before we go into the 4 dimensions, because I want you to see this clearly. Imagine a woman, let's call her Maya. Maya has been with her partner for 3 years. They argue constantly. About the future, about effort, about who initiates, who plans, who shows up and how. They have had every version of the same conversation dozens of times. Each time they get a little further, a little more honest, a little more raw. And each time nothing changes. Her friends tell her, you two just need to communicate better. Her partner says, you never tell me what you actually need. Her therapist says, try to express your feelings without accusation. And Maya does all of it. She reads the books, she journals, she comes to every conversation prepared with clarity and openness and the most generous version of herself. And still nothing shifts, because Maya and her partner are not miscommunicating, they are misaligned. He wants a low-key life, small, simple, uncomplicated. She wants a life that is expanding, a business, travel, a home that feels like growth. Neither of them is wrong. But they are building in different directions, and no conversation is going to make those directions meet. That is the alignment gap in a real relationship. And it shows up in 4 specific dimensions. Let me walk you through each one. The first dimension is the deepest and the most difficult to admit. Values incompatibility is when two people hold fundamentally different beliefs about what matters most in life. Not different hobbies, not different tastes in music or food or film, but different answers to the questions that a life is built around. How important is family? What does loyalty look like? Is financial security a priority or a burden? How much does faith or spirituality matter? What does ambition mean? Is it admirable or exhausting? How do you define a good person? These are not conversations you have on a first date. They reveal themselves slowly through the patterns of a life lived together. And when they reveal misalignment, the shock can be enormous, because by then you are already in love, already attached, already building something. A woman who believes deeply in family will eventually find herself in unbearable pain with a man who sees family as optional. A woman who values financial discipline will quietly lose respect for a man who is careless with money, no matter how much she loves him. And no amount of talking about it changes the underlying value. You cannot communicate someone into having your values. You can only decide whether the gap between your values is something you can live with or something that will quietly destroy you. The sign that you are in a values incompatibility is this: you keep having the same argument, but the argument is never really about what it appears to be about. You are fighting about dishes, but you are really fighting about respect. You are fighting about his mother, but you are really fighting about whose life you are living. You are fighting about the holiday plan, but you are really fighting about whether your needs count. The surface argument changes every time. The wound underneath never does. That wound is a values gap. The second dimension is vision incompatibility. This is where two people agree on values in the abstract but want completely different lives in the concrete. You both believe in commitment, but one of you believes commitment looks like settling in one city, building roots, raising children in a neighborhood you know by name. And the other believes commitment looks like being wherever life is most alive, moving, exploring, staying fluid. You both believe in partnership, but one of you believes that means building a business together, combining forces, creating something. And the other believes it means two independent lives lived alongside each other with minimal entanglement. Vision incompatibility is particularly painful because it often doesn't surface until the relationship is serious. In the early stages, when you are still in the romance of getting to know each other, the vision stays abstract. You both say you want a future together and that feels like enough. But futures are not abstract, they are specific. They are cities and careers and houses and children and how Sunday mornings feel and who is at the dinner table. And when the future starts becoming real, when the conversation shifts from someday to now, that is when vision incompatibility walks into the room and announces itself. The hard truth about vision incompatibility is that it is not a compromise problem. Compromise works when two people want similar things in different amounts, but vision is not a quantity, it is a direction. And you cannot split the difference between two opposite directions. If she wants children and he genuinely does not, there is no compromise. Someone will live a life they did not choose. And a life you did not choose, even when filled with love, carries a grief that will surface eventually. The third dimension is emotional compatibility, and this one is where people most often misdiagnose the problem as communication. Emotional compatibility is about whether two people operate at compatible emotional frequencies. It is about how much intimacy each person needs, how much space, how conflict is processed, how love is expressed and received, how vulnerability is held. An emotionally avoidant person and a deeply emotionally expressive person are not failing to communicate when their interactions feel draining and disconnected. They are experiencing an emotional compatibility gap. She needs to process out loud. He needs to process alone. She needs reassurance after conflict. He needs space after conflict. She expresses love through words and emotional presence. He expresses love through acts of service and physical presence. Neither of them is broken, neither of them is wrong, but they are asking each other for things that the other person does not naturally give, and receiving things they did not ask for in return. What makes emotional compatibility hard to identify is that chemistry often masquerades as compatibility. Two people can have electric chemistry, real, undeniable, powerful attraction, and still be emotionally incompatible. Chemistry is about what you feel when you are together. Compatibility is about what the relationship costs you over time. And a relationship with great chemistry but poor emotional compatibility will feel intoxicating at the beginning and quietly exhausting by the middle. The passion is real, but so is the depletion. Fourth dimension is lifestyle incompatibility, and it is the one most often dismissed as shallow, which is why it creates so much quiet damage inside relationships. Lifestyle incompatibility is a mismatch in how two people actually want to live day to day. Social life, financial habits, how time is spent, standards of home, environment, routine, how much space each person needs, the rhythm of a week, a month, a year. People will tell you that lifestyle differences don't matter if the love is real. That is not true. Lifestyle is not background noise. It is the substance of a life. If you are an introvert who needs a quiet home and he is an extrovert who needs the house full of people every weekend, you will not find peace in the same space regardless of how much you love each other. If you are financially disciplined and he is financially impulsive, money will become a source of constant low-grade anxiety in the relationship. If you need a clean, organized environment to feel calm and he is comfortable in chaos, your home will become a battleground, not because either of you is wrong, but because you cannot share a life that feels livable to both of you at the same time. Lifestyle incompatibility is not about one person being better than the other. It is about two people being calibrated for different lives. And love, no matter how sincere, cannot recalibrate a person. You can ask someone to adjust. You can ask them to try, but you cannot ask someone to become a fundamentally different version of themselves and expect it to hold over years and decades. People return to who they are. That is not a character flaw, that is just the truth of human nature. So here is where we arrive. You have been trying to fix the conversation, but the conversation is not what is broken, and now you have the language to understand that. The question is, what do you do with it? First thing you do is stop trying to outcommunicate a structural problem. If you have identified that your relationship is carrying one of these four alignment gaps, and especially if it is carrying more than one, the work is not to find better words. The work is to get honest about what you are looking at. That honesty takes courage because numbing an incompatibility means accepting that love alone is not enough. And we have been told our whole lives that love is enough. It is not. Love is essential. But love is not sufficient. Love without alignment is just two people hurting each other slowly while meaning well. The second thing you do is ask yourself the question that most people avoid their entire relationship. If nothing changes, can I live with this version of this relationship? Not the potential version, not the version it was in the first year, but the version it is right now for the rest of my life. If the answer is yes, then you have a workable relationship with some real gaps and the work is worth doing. If the answer is no, then what you are managing is not a relationship problem. It is a life decision. The third thing, and this is the most important, is to stop treating your standards as a communication failure. When you know what you want and the person you are with cannot give you that, it is not because you explained it wrong. It is not because you were too demanding. It is not because you asked too much. Knowing what you need and not finding it in a particular person does not make you difficult. It makes you self-aware. And self-awareness is the foundation of every decision worth making. Here is the mindset shift I want you to carry out of this video. The right relationship does not require you to shrink what you want in order to make it work. The right relationship works because what you want and what your partner wants are already pointing in the same direction. You are not negotiating direction. You are simply deciding how fast to walk and who carries what along the way. That is what compatibility feels like. Not effortless. All relationships require effort, but aligned. Moving toward the same thing together even when it is hard. If you have never felt that in a relationship, I want you to know it exists. And if you have been blaming your communication for years, I want you to know you were not the problem. You were just in the wrong building looking for a door that was never installed. If this video just gave a name to something you have been feeling for a long time, I want you to sit with that. You are not crazy. You are not asking for too much. You were just missing the framework to understand what you were actually experiencing, and now you have it. If this resonated with you, hit the like button right now. It takes 1 second and it tells me to keep making videos like this. The ones that go deeper than the surface. The ones that give you real tools for real situations. I put a lot into every single video on this channel and your support means more than you know. Subscribe if you are not already part of this community and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a video. This channel is built for women who want to understand what is actually happening in their relationships, not just what it looks like from the outside. Every week I go deeper and every week I want you here, and I need you to drop a comment below before you close this video. Tell me, which of the four dimensions, values, vision, emotional compatibility, or lifestyle have you experienced the most in your own relationships? Be honest. I read every single comment, and your answer might be exactly what someone else scrolling through needs to see today.